Hello. In the previous video, I talked about different machines that you can buy and use as a server for your home lab. And in this video, I'm gonna be installing Proxmox on my AU Star VTR Pro. But before I jump into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about virtual machines and hypervisors, different types of hypervisors, and why we're using them with home labs. Now, under normal circumstances with your normal daily PC or laptop, you have your hardware, you have your operating systems, and then different applications on top of that. Your operating system can be Windows, some Linux distribution, or Mac OS, right? But with HomeLab, you will be hosting multiple services. Sometimes these services require specific operating systems. For example, if you want to play with Active Directory, you want to experiment with domain controllers and stuff, you will need Windows Server. Or for example, I want to create a NAS as well, and I want to virtualize it, so I'm going to be using Open Media Vault, which in itself is a NAS operating system. And for everything else, I will be using Ubuntu Server and then Docker containers, etc. Right? So virtual machines allow you to run multiple operating systems on one hardware while keeping these operating systems isolated from each other. So this gives you flexibility, deployment, benefits, backup snapshots. You can delete one VM, create new ones, and etc. Now, again, in normal PC environment, you would have your hardware, your operating system, let's say Windows. On top of that, you would install your hypervisor tool. In this case, for example, it can be VirtualBox or VMware Workstation Pro. And then on top of that, you create your virtual machines. In server environments, though, this is not an ideal setup because you're wasting resources running the OS and then on top of that hypervisor and then the VMs. So with servers, what you do is, this is by the way called type 2 hosted hypervisor, where you have your operating system, hypervisor, and then VMs. With type 1 or bare metal hypervisors, you have your hardware, you have your hypervisor, which is an OS and hypervisor at the same time. And these can be, for example, Proxmox, which I will be using, or VMware, let's say ESXi, right? And then on top of that, you have your different virtual machines. You can often create containers directly on top of hypervisor as well if you want to. So you are eliminating an extra waste of resources that would go into driving this operating system with the servers. Now, coming back to Proxmox. Proxmox, again, is a bare metal virtualizer, and the latest version at the moment is 9.1. You can download it from their own official website, ISOs, and yeah, 9.1 is the latest version. I already have it downloaded. Then you can use tools like Rufus or Balena Etcher to burn it into a USB drive. But if you do so, you can only install one, let's say, operating system, which is Proxmox. Whereas I want to create a USB drive where I can copy multiple ISOs and be able to install different ISOs on different machines from one bootable drive. And Ventoy is the tool you want for that. I again have it downloaded as well. I have my 32 gig SanDisk USB drive plugged in, and what I need to do is start Ventoy. So it already sees my USB drive, and I just need to click install, and it's gonna format your USB drive. It will actually split it into two partitions. One of the partitions you will be able to use as a regular disk drive, USB drive, and the other one will have the bootable Ventoy itself. So essentially, when you plug this USB drive into a computer and start it and launch from it, you will be able to select like multiple ISOs, and you will also be able to use it as a regular drive. And if you want to update Ventoy to different versions, you can do it from the app itself here. Alright, it's completed and I see my Ventoy D drive. I'm not going to be able to see the other one because it's not visible, at least in Windows by default. And the first thing I need to do is create a folder named OS. And then I can copy from my downloads Proxmox VE, add into this OS. Copying completed, and now I can plug this drive onto VTR Pro and start it up. Now I plugged the USB drive into my VTR Pro and I try to hit delete to go into the boot. What does it say? Escape to previous. Okay, it's in grab. So the problem here is I already have Proxmox on it. So I will try to restart. Let's see if reboot command works. Okay, I think it works. I will try again. Oh, okay. I was smashing escape and delete, which worked. So here I want to put into my USB drive SanDisk partition 2. Let's see. Oh yeah, perfect. Ventoy Proxmox V 9.1. Put in normal mode and install Proxmox V. Alright. User agreement. I agree. What drive to use? I'm gonna be installing it on my NVMe. What options do I have here? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Next. It wants me to United States as the country. Time zone. Let's choose Chicago. Keyboard US. Password. It wants me to provide. Okay. So this is gonna be your root password, by the way, so do not forget it. And it wants me to provide a valid email address. All right. Now it wants me to choose the NIC. And by the way, I don't have it plugged in. One moment. Okay, now it wants me to choose the NIC. I plugged it into the first port, so it's probably NIC 0. It's currently connected to my router via Ethernet. It wants you to add to provide a FQDN, which is a fully qualified domain name. If you own a domain that you want to use with this homelab, you can go ahead and do it. If you don't have anything, one of the advised domain names to use is home.arpa. This is, I believe, a specifically reserved domain name that is supposed to be used in local environments like in our use cases. So I'm going to use it Mars as home.arpa. And then it wants you to provide the IP address and then the range. In my case, it's this is what my router assigns. So it's like 192.168.1 and then /24 in CIDR, and my gateway is 1.1 DNS server. So here, if you set it to 127.0.0.1 and then you boot into Proxmox and want to, let's say, do apt update or like download some ISOs, it will fail because it will try to look into itself as the DNS server. But here I'm actually gonna use my router as the default DNS for Proxmox itself, right? I click next. Everything seems to be okay. And the host name is Mars. And I'll just wait for it to finish. This usually doesn't take much time, a couple minutes. And I used my router as the DNS. You can use like Google 8.8.8.8 or like Cloudflare 1.1.1.1. I just set it to my router. Okay, so it now tells me that Proxmox installation is completed, and it also showed me the IP address and then port number I can use for the graphic user interface. And now it's going to restart, and I will actually unplug the USB drive, and we have Proxmox VE. Now, from now on, we don't really need, let's say, HDMI or DisplayPort from the homelab itself, because we're not going to be using its console environment for managing anything. We're going to be using web GUI. Alright, back in my web browser, I can go to my IP address 168.1.100 and then 80.06. This is the default port for Proxmox. Advanced is complaining about HTTPS because our certificate name and etc. There's nothing matching. Proceed, and then here it's gonna be your username, which is root by default, and the password that you set during installation. Okay, and this is it. That should be it. I guess a little bit of overview. So this is our Proxmox node, Mars, and here I have, what do I have? If I go here, summary, okay, I can see that I have 16 CPU. This CPU has like 8 cores, 2 threads per like core, so 16. I have 62 gigs of RAM, I can see it, perfect. Now I see 93 gigs of memory, but that is not all of it, because so Proxmox uses 100 used, in my case at least, 100 gig for itself, for its own like bootable drive, and then the virtual machines that I will be creating will be actually living in local-LVM, which has 852, the rest of my NVMe. If I go back here and look at, do we have anything interesting? We can look at network. We see our NIC 0, I can see my IP address, my gateway, and then DNS is, yep, correct. So if I go to shell, can I ping something? Yeah, it's Linux anyway, so yeah, pinging works. Is it sudo apt update? No. Oh, okay. Apt update. Oh yeah, it's Debian based, I guess. But it failed. I'll take a look at it later on. I guess this is it for Proxmox installation. In the next video, I will create the first virtual machine and set it up as well. Alright, this is my homelab journey so far, and hope to see you in the next one.